We've declared bankruptcy. You can really see how rotten that is.
Showing up, that's half the battle.
This is a money pit, a waste of money, the wrong decision. And you can obviously see the carnage. Today is a day of reckoning. All the dark forces that are conspiring against us.
You see me over here crying, don't worry.
I'm back with more progress on the distillery. First and foremost, we've declared bankruptcy on getting the paint off of this building. I know a lot of y'all had suggestions, a lot of y'all had thoughts, sandblasting it, doing all sorts of different things. We've explored all of those. They were super expensive. For various reasons, they were not gonna work for this project. So what we did do is we bought a higher end pressure washer than we had, 4,400 PSI. We began chemically stripping and trying to take the paint off the outside, and this is where we got. And obviously you can see we made some progress. Like, we are getting paint off the outside of the building. It's not perfectly clean, but we could go back over it. The problem we're having is pretty much from the day we started doing this until last week, it's been 100 freaking degrees here, and this is in the sun first thing in the morning. So before 10 o'clock, stripper goes on, works fine, pressure wash it off. After 10 o'clock, it's drying faster than you could put the stuff on, and so it's not really effective. If it dries too fast, it doesn't eat through the paint. So it's just been a little harder going than we had thought, because we can really only do this for a couple of hours a day. But we've got a solution. After the last video, some folks reached out, willing to do it at a good friends and family discount rate. So I think we're gonna be able to get this thing media blasted. We're gonna be able to get it in a budget that we can afford and get that done. But also, this is the old roof on top of the building. They are starting to pull it down along with air conditioners and things that were up there. So in this video, we're gonna get the roof done and we're gonna see the paint get off the outside of this building. And I'm excited about that, because once we have a roof and we can clean it up and it's not leaking on the inside, it's gonna start feeling like a building, and then we can get power and start doing some of the projects on the inside. See how this roof goes. So not a lot to show here day one. They are just working on tearing all the roof structure off. You can kind of see here, the backside, there was metal going up and over that little rise right there. That is now off, so they're taking that off. They're doing the same. You can kind of see it up front here just a little bit. They've started there with pulling those pieces of metal off. Then the rest of the roof will come off. And then once they have all the roof off, they're gonna go through and take all of the rotten boards, all the decking, any roof joists, anything like that that's rotten, and replace them. So then they'll have a good substrate to actually put the new roof on this thing. Now, we're not going back with metal. We're gonna go back with that kind of, I forget what it's called. It's like vinyl roofing. It's kind of like a rolled roofing that's on most commercial buildings. They kind of have a flat top like this one. So hopefully this roof will progress pretty hot and heavy this week. And then it's a couple of weeks before the blasters get here to blast the outside of this. But for y'all, it's gonna all happen in this update video. So apparently there were 6 layers of roofing on top of this building. They kept roofing the thing every 10 years, but nobody ever took any roofing materials off. So they were just kind of rolled roof, 5 layers of that. Then they gave up on that, put metal on top of it. All of that is now coming off. Progress has been made. I'm not sure they've got it completely done, but we can really start to see some of the damage and how bad some of this roof area is. So like this area right here, you can really see how rotten that is as they start pulling up the roofing materials. You can see the gaps in between and the light shining through, and it looked like those boards were right up next to each other. Overall though, you've got a lot of areas in here that are actually really good, in much, much better shape than anticipated. I think 80–85% of the actual decking boards up there are gonna be salvageable. So step one is to pull all of the roofing materials off, which it looks like they might have gotten it done. If not, they're pretty close to having it done. And then they're gonna go through, replace any of the decking boards and some of the rafters that are gonna need to be replaced as well. And then the new roof membrane goes down. Progress. We're getting there. Still a lot to do. Budget hasn't even really been a problem for us thus far. It's really just finding the time to get contractors here to actually get the stuff done, because they have to work it into their schedule. The good ones are all really busy as well. And we would rather wait on somebody we trust and we know is going to do a good job than to go with somebody that's an unknown commodity to us at this point. We're going to get this done. I'm going to try to get power run to the building here as well. So we've got a little power here. And then obviously the media blasting should be happening. It's going to move slow with these big projects, and it's going to seem like it's taking forever. And then all of a sudden, the last details are going to happen really, really quickly. So that's at least what I'm hoping. I've seen the comments, a lot of people talking about this is a money pit, a waste of money, the wrong decision. A lot of people were voting for the vineyard. I understand. We got a good deal on this. With what it's looking like right now to get this building done, it's going to be cheaper than what the building's worth. In other words, the building will be worth more than what we will have in this. Not like huge amounts, but substantially more. And we were able to build this out exactly like we wanted without taking on a huge amount of debt. A lot of distilleries are struggling and closing down. For some of them, okay, product market fit marketing, like lots of reasons. But for a lot of them, they took on a lot of debt when whiskey was expensive and debt was cheap. And now whiskey's cheap and debt's expensive, and they're upside down on a lot of their loans. And so something like the vineyard would have been great, but that would have required us to not only spend more money up front, but to go bigger quicker in order to cover that overhead, and that adds an awful lot of risk. Here, we can tiptoe into it, and worst case scenario, if this doesn't work, or if it barely works, or there's not a huge demand or a huge market, we can make this payment. We don't have to like go huge, swing for the fences, and risk going broke doing it. This was the safest bet, and I think once you see the whole vision of what this place, not just this building, but what we're gonna do around here, I think it'll all make sense. Hopefully by then, it's gonna be too late. It's gonna be an I told you so, because it's going to be really, really cool if we can pull it off. Having a building and distilling is really only the first step. You have to have sales teams and marketing and inventory and bottles and equipment. And I know we have a lot of the equipment, but we don't have everything we need. We gotta be mindful of that. And I think this was the right call. And I think, like I said, once we're all said and done, you'll agree. We've also started making some decisions on the Quonset hut up here. This corner here has been damaged at least twice. So sometimes a semi tries to come around this corner and it can't make this turn, so it crushes the building. This is all repair work that was done previously, and they put this pole up. Obviously did not help because it just got crushed again. Now, one of the things we're considering is just repairing this, but it's already happened at least twice. What keeps it from happening again? So we're also considering taking this wall and moving it back to there to give them more space to fit. We lose a little bit of square footage, but hopefully we won't ever have to deal with the damage from some truck not being able to make this turn again. Monroe has started working on these windows right here, get us nice ventilation so that we can have all of our barrel storage in here. We're gonna move that wall, we're gonna put a ventilation fan, we'll be able to leave these open and get great airflow, and airflow is key for aging whiskey. We have decided, I think, we're gonna get rid of all these windows in here. It's gonna be expensive to replace all of this glass. They're hard to get to, and we're just not confident we're gonna be able to keep them from leaking. We're just gonna, pull them out, cover it with metal so that we've got, plenty of space without any leaks. That's what we're going for here, so some progress is being made there. We don't want to spend a ton of money on this Quonset hut. It's cool, it's nice, it's not in the greatest shape in the world. Long term, if we're going to up our production, which we hope to do, we're gonna need this space to build a bigger building that's gonna house all of that, along with kind of the green space here, and hopefully we can acquire a little property around us to aid in that. So how much money do you put into a building that you're eventually going to potentially tear down? But on the flip side, it's going to be years before that happens. And this would give us a lot of storage, a lot of barrel aging. Like, this would allow us to have that operation for the foreseeable future. So it's definitely worth putting a little effort into, but we're not going to try to make it perfect. We're just gonna try to make it dry. Then we can use it for whiskey storage. Eventually decide whether or not we're gonna try to tear it down and go bigger, or whether or not we're going to just keep this here and do something else somewhere else. Well, I was out of town and I got a little bad news. The rot in the ceiling was worse than it originally appeared. And when I first bought this building, I budgeted to replace all of the wood infrastructure. That's kind of what I thought we were going to have to do. But after we got it cleaned out, looking at it, and talking to the roofers, it looked like the majority of that wood was okay, and we were going to be able to keep the wood infrastructure. As they started pulling off the roof, a lot of the wood that even looked good from the ground was not good on top, because all of those layers were just holding water up there on the roof. It wasn't like there was a hole and it was coming through. It was working its way through layers and sitting in between them. The budget, unfortunately, is going to go up from what was estimated, still less than what I originally budgeted when we bought the building, when we were looking at what this was going to cost. But let me show you why. And you can obviously see the carnage, but the vast majority of the decking boards on top are completely and totally gone. The thing is the board can be great 75% of the way, 80% of the way, but if it's rotten on the end, you might as well replace the whole board. So we just made the call to go ahead and replace anything that might be problematic. You can see they've already started putting in new rafters and things, but they got most of the rafters done. You see back here, all new back here, but still a lot of work to do here, a lot of work to do. I still think this was the right decision, all things considered, because we're still under budget for what I thought this would take to start this project. Like, we're still under budget. Not under budget overall, everything else was more expensive. The roof, I had this one nailed. This is the worst it's going to look, though. There's like this kind of, valley of deconstruction before we start building back. And so far, we've really just been focused mostly on the deconstruction efforts, cleaning it out, getting paint off the outside of it, tearing this roof out. There's been a little bit of construction, like the windows that Monroe's working on back there. Maybe it looks a little better in some cases, like tearing out all the rotten, interior structure, but the building's getting worse. We're taking stuff away. This is the end of that. I mean, actually, we've already passed the end of that. They're already starting to put roof rafters in. By the time they actually get done and they get all of this roof on, this is where it starts to actually tick back up, right? This is where we start seeing it come together. And we've still got a few things that are going to be costly, like plumbing. The plumbing, we'll talk about the plumbing here in a second, but we've still got a lot of things like that won't be real visual. Like, we won't be able to show that too much on camera, but that stuff has to go in before you do the part that really starts to show the space. The actual build out and adding walls and stuff, so much quicker than a lot of this other stuff that you just can't see on camera. Plumbing, though, is the next really big thing. We have an estimate on power. We're gonna go ahead and get power run here pretty soon. This area over here, you see our main stack there. This is our main vent. And there's a couple of toilet flanges over here where there were 2 restrooms. But the restrooms have to get a lot bigger. So we've got to get a mason in here to block these windows here up, because those are going to be in the restroom and we don't need windows in the restroom. So the men's room's going to be here, and then over to the side coming this way is going to be the women's room. So all this concrete's got to get cut up to move those flanges. Those flanges, according to code, are too close to the wall. So they got to be moved, but we also want at least 2 stalls in each restroom. So we've got to expand that out, cut the floor up. We also want drainage back here in production, because we're dealing with a lot of liquids and you're going to have a lot of spills. In an ideal environment, we would have a lot of drains and the floors would be sloped toward it. It's not going to happen in this case, but we are going to put in a kind of a trench drain down the middle of this floor. But then also over here behind me in this area is going to be the bar, and that needs drainage. So we're going to have to run something all the way over there and trench this whole floor up. That'll be a thing that's an unknown cost. I don't know what that's gonna cost yet. We've got to get some quotes on that, but we can't really start building anything up until that's done, because that has to be done, and then the concrete has to be repaired, and then the concrete has to be finished, and then we can start bringing in equipment and stuff. Still many, many steps to get this building done, and I'm gonna put it on camera here today, although I know this is probably a bad idea. My goal is to have this building and the Quonset hut done by the end of Q1. So far, the contractors that have been out here have been responsible for permits. So like the roofers, they got their own permits. From this point forward though, once the roof goes on, we've got to get a plan together. We got to have the architect's drawings. We've got to get our own permits from the city for things moving forward. This is where it starts to get exciting. I know it looks like a hot mess, but I could not be more excited to see the roof start coming together, because this is when we actually have a building. Well, today is a day of reckoning for this paint, I hope. Like, we don't really know. We're gonna do some tests, okay? We brought in some experts. The experts are concerned that blasting the building is gonna take all the freaking mortar out of the brickwork. What we're gonna try, or they're gonna try, is a much, much higher PSI pressure washer than what we have, to see if we can speed up the process, like not having to do the chemical stripping, because we're chemically stripping, but everything's drying, and it's drying too quickly for the stripper to react. They're thinking if we just hit it with more PSI, that's going to solve the problem.
Mike Rowland, MDM Tech down in South Texas. We're gonna hope to get this done for TJ, because we want this distillery up and going to get some great whiskey at you guys. And I think we're gonna be able to knock this out, guys, but we're fixing to find out here in about 30 minutes. We're gonna be blasting, and we're gonna see if we get some pretty red brick from underneath this thing for this cool place.
All the dark forces that are conspiring against us here are rearing their ugly head on this particular piece of machinery, and now it will not start. How did it bounce oil out?
Well, Jacob would tell you I was doing about 90 the whole way up here, TJ.
So you were a little rough on it.
I was cruising a little bit. That's not a good sign, because I see it pouring out. Yeah. Is it pouring out what I took off?
Well, yeah, you left the top off over here, so it's pouring out of a known hole. How excited will you be if this works?
You see me over here crying, don't worry. It's tears of joy.
Who says continuing to do the same thing over and over and over is insanity?
Is this turned off?
So it has been quite a bit longer than 30 minutes actually, and it doesn't want to run. It will start sometimes, and it'll only run for a second.
I'll just go buy a brand new. That's the only way we're gonna get it done. And if that one ain't running, there's no repair shops around here. I'll take that one back and get it fixed. I'll use the second one.
Well, fast forward to a few weeks later from filming that, and we still got paint on the building. That's what I like about this building. It's a fighter. It's gonna fight us tooth and nail until it's done, but we will prevail. We will be victorious. Unfortunately, the fellows that came to help us out with the paint had a bit of an emergency, had to rush back to Texas. It sounds like everything's okay, which is great, but it meant not a lot got done on the paint yet. But that doesn't mean there hasn't been any progress, because Monroe's been working on this side of the building right here, and it's starting to come pretty clean, like at least where he can reach. And the white stuff up there comes off better, it appears, than the green and white did down here. Now, this is not his main focus. It hasn't been going fast. Just kind of works on it when he can, but we've got that done. These windows here are back in. Haven't got glass in them yet. Didn't want to put glass in them until all the pressure washer and everything is done over here. And we've got a fully fleshed out roof. The roof itself, completely and totally done. Completely and totally bone dry, despite being raining off and on for the last couple of days. A nice solid roof on this thing. See absolutely no wet spots. So let's talk about what's next and what the next few months of this project look like. Right now, we are still focused on trying to get the paint off the outside of the building and trying to escalate the effort that is going into that. The city of Opelika has been great to us. They've given us a small grant that's actually going to cover the cost of the masonry on this building, because all of our windows here, these 4 windows, are going to have to go. Now, we're gonna lose some light here, obviously, but those windows in the front are half painted over. We'll get more light. This door over here is all gonna be glass. We'll get more light. But these 3 windows here, this one, these 2, are actually where the restroom's gonna go, and I need that wall space for something we're gonna do as well. So those are getting bricked up. There's a door over in the front there that's getting blocked up or bricked up, and then the door over there that goes to Narnia or wherever is getting bricked up as well. So we'll have solid outside walls. We're gonna try to like actually key it in, match it the best we can. You'll always be able to tell, but we want it to look like it was professionally done. In the next video, you'll definitely see that getting done. From there though, this project is going to slow down mostly due to budgets. We want to show how difficult it is to actually start a distillery. Keep in mind with all of this we're doing, once we're finished, it would still be cheaper for us to buy a barrel of whiskey from someone else than it will be to make it here at this facility. Now we think this facility gives us a big advantage over being able to experiment and hone our own flavor profile for our own products, but it's also going to give us an advantage if whiskey goes back to being expensive. There's a lot of investment here that short term doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you're playing the long game, make a ton of sense. And we've actually been very frugal so far. I mean, we can't cut any corners on the construction of the building, but we got the equipment incredibly cheap, and we've been able to, really try to get these jobs here done as economical as possible as well without cutting those corners. Back of napkin math in this project with the equipment that we've acquired, with the building acquisition, not including what we financed on the building, like literal money we had to come up with, $250,000 or so, maybe a little more. Like that's really just calculating all the big things that have gone into this, from equipment to down payment on the building, roof, foundation repair. We gotta spend a little time trying to recover. With that, we're kind of at that point to where now we gotta put a lot of elbow grease into it. And there's luckily a lot of elbow grease work that's gotta happen here. Cleaning up the inside, painting, staining the roof, getting the inside, either strip the paint off of it or paint the inside of the building. All of those things we can work on those through the winter and hopefully try to scrape together enough money early next year to finish the few big projects that we've got to get done. And you're wondering, like, how the heck does somebody just have $250,000 laying around? I do not. Early on, we had the staves for sale. You can see the first 160 or so staves right here that we've already made that are going to go on the ceiling here in the tasting room. And you've got some folks, like the Tazes here, are absolutely insane. They've bought how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then they've come back and they've started buying more of them. And I think there's still more to be produced. We've got a lot of staves. That paid for all the clean out. I had some savings stashed away that we used for the down payment and the foundation repair and stuff, but we also had the Oak Bowery 1 release that we did last year to the club and used some of that distillate that we acquired from Kansas along with some barrels from Old Dominic, generated some revenue there. And we've got the Oak Bowery cask strength that we think will provide the money to finish this project if we get those bottles into market and get them sold. We're working on trying to build distribution. That's like the next step to have our whiskey available. And we want to start building distribution before we have distillate here, because it's a long, hard road and we need to go ahead and get started down that path. We got a lot to learn there. We have that product. We're trying to get it into Texas so that it can get to the club, be available online. You're going to be able to buy that online, but I don't have a timeline for it right now. We're trying to make it happen as fast as possible, but whiskey does not move fast. So you definitely want to look in the description of this video, sign up for the newsletter, the Brewzle newsletter and the selection, and that's where we'll notify you when those bottles are available, hopefully sometime later this year. But that release should provide, if not all of the budget, to get this building at least to where we can get our license in producing. May not finish the tasting room because that's gonna be another costly project, but it'll leap us forward. We're not gonna make my deadline of having this building completed by the end of Q1 of next year. But I do hope by the end of Q1, maybe the production area is done. And then all we've got to do is work on the tasting room. And that would be a win in and of itself. It's taken a lot longer to do things. I mean, we've had this building now 7 months as of me filming this, and it took that long to get it cleaned out and get a roof on it. And that's just unfortunately construction, especially when you're a small project for most of these suppliers. How's morale on the project?
That was great.
Got our no trespassing signs that the insurance is requiring up now. Nobody can trespass. They could trespass before, but now they can't. Nothing else to say.
No, I'm here. Showing up, that's half the battle.
Is that a G.I. Joe slogan? What was that?
G.I. Joe all day long.
As you can see behind us, thanks to a little grant from the city of Opelika, our brickwork is getting started. Right here, they've started cutting out the windows so they can key those bricks in. So it's less noticeable that we've replaced them. They're demoing some buildings and they found some old bricks from about this same era. Well, here are our vintage bricks that are gonna go on the building there, along with some concrete blocks to fill in on the inside. He's got new bricks there. We're gonna use new bricks, maybe on the inside. Those vintage bricks, there weren't a ton of them, so our concern is that he's not gonna have enough to do the whole thing. We're trying to get anywhere it's not gonna be painted, use the vintage bricks. Anywhere it's gonna be painted, we'll splice in with new bricks. Because on the other side of those, anyway, it's gonna be a restroom. It's gonna be painted. Why worry about it matching the brickwork if we're never gonna see it? Here are the vintage bricks that they found. So once those are in there, you're not really gonna be able to tell. Glad they were able to find those bricks. I was afraid they were gonna have to use new bright orange bricks or something that didn't match, and it was gonna stick out like a sore thumb. So we should be able to splice those in pretty good. I'll keep you up to date on the brickwork and all the progress that we're making over here, but realistically, that's not the most exciting part. When we first started this journey, I said it to anybody that would ask, but I think I said it in a video as well. We have multiple dominoes we need to fall and things that need to happen to make this place realize its full potential of what we want to do here. This was just kind of step one. It's a big step, but it's still step one. And if those other dominoes didn't happen, we could still produce whiskey here, but we couldn't do everything we wanted to do here on the scale that we wanted to do it. And the exciting part is that first domino, or technically second domino, this is the first one, appears to be falling because we now have agreements to purchase this property over here. Now, we haven't closed on it yet. We're gonna close on it. We're gonna show it to you in this video because we should be closed on it before we get done with this particular episode. But it includes this building here, which looks pretty rough. I will admit it. If you go on the inside, it looks really rough. There's some weird things going on. You could see through the windows there. They're literally concrete blocks in there. Concrete on the inside is failing. There's some problems with this building. However, I think it's all things that were added to the inside of the building, not the building itself. So I believe we can fix this building. This is big enough to put in a full automated bottling line, which we don't have room for over here. We can have more storage and things, which we're sorely lacking. We could have grain processing in a, divide it up and do something like that. Like there, it gives us some options and a little more square footage. But there's another building over there. I know it doesn't look impressive from over here. It's really, really cool. It's much better than it looks from the outside. The really important part is that this potentially opens up parking. Technically, this is not a city street. This is actually an easement for septic. There's a septic line that runs down the middle of this road and across the railroad tracks and over to the neighborhoods across the tracks there. Our hope is that we can get access from the city to utilize this. We can have a little outdoor space here, but also we can come in here and tear down these structures back here and have parking all the way from there over back to the Quonset hut, which would give us a pretty sizable parking lot. Maybe not big enough for special events, but we're working on solutions for that. But definitely enough parking for just general day-to-day business and folks that would be in the tasting room. Super easy access to it. And we don't really have to shut down anything like access to these streets and things that these other businesses use. And if all things go well, there's some other things that opens up that I won't talk about yet until we know that we're actually going to be able to accomplish those things. So big domino there. Let's continue to check on this brickwork and some of the things we're doing here, getting paint off the outside of this building, and then we will circle back to giving you tours of that as soon as we've closed on it and we have those secured. So exciting times. I mean, it is another level of debt that I wasn't really looking forward to. We're trying to avoid as much debt as possible with this. We're trying to cash flow as much of it as we possibly can. But realistically, I have a vision for what I want this to be and what I think we can accomplish. There's a reason I chose this building, is I thought we would have a run at actually acquiring that property across the street to fulfill the full vision for what this could be. But I also can't cut any corners. I don't have unlimited funds. Matter of fact, all the funds are pretty much gone at this point. Y'all know, y'all watch the bourbon hunts. I'm not good with budgets. Like we have guidelines, but realistically with this, we don't have a budget to get this done. We have an idea of what we thought it would take. We are still under that. We are going to get it to that number. We continue to do things when we have budget, and when we run out of budget, we just stop until we have it. I'm not going to compromise on what we're trying to accomplish here. I will just wait and do it later if that's what it takes. So we keep pushing. I think we're probably going to have some short order updates. I don't know if we'll have any updates on domino number 3 in this video, but we'll have it in the next one. So if y'all are interested in purchasing one of those staves that's gonna go on the ceiling, those are available at brewzle.com. We'll put a link in the description of this video to it. I appreciate y'all watching all the way to the end. Go ahead and let me know in the comments every place we've messed up and what we should have done and how we should have done it differently. I'm open to any and all of that feedback. Any ideas you've got to make this thing awesome as we continue to build it out, love those ideas as well. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.